In a sense, a person does eat the fruit from what he accomplished if he needs it himself. For example, if he was a person that was involved in charity all his life, and therefore when there's a need, he's in a tight time and he needs charity, so Hashem helps him, and the Almighty helps him and gives him what he needs. This is eating from the fruit of his accomplishments. But in general, the tainug of Nivra, the tainug of the creation, and the creation is after this world. In regards to the Creator himself, this is the world that he has the tainug in. He derives pleasure from this world, because this is the whole creation was created for the purpose of this physical world. Making a dwelling place for him, and as the Alter Rebbe writes, Rav Shneimur Zalman of Liadi writes in Tanya, in a world that there's nothing lower than that. This physical world is nothing lower. This is in regards to place. In regards to time, there are many different timings through the year where there's revelations of pleasure that is revealed from above. But to understand that, you have to make a little introduction, understanding the different revelations of pleasure, what they are. And this is quoting, brought along from a discourse that was given by the fifth leader of Chabad in the year 1897. It happened to be the discourse that he delivered during the 7 days of his son's wedding, previous Rebbe's wedding. So actually even the beginning starts, the discourse begins with the words Vahu kechosen yetze mechoposi, like a chosen coming out of his canopy. A verse in Tilim, the 19th chapter in Tilim, and the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Rebbe of Chabad, concentrates a lot, discusses, elaborates, different from one topic to another, and he really discusses the difference between the two levels of tainuk, pleasure, and actually breaks it into 3 levels. But before that, as an introduction, and this all actually ties together, he discusses the difference between the sacrifices and the scents, the psomim that they brought, delivered in the temple. The sacrifices had reach necheach. They were considered an auspicious offering for the Almighty. Reach necheach l'Hashem. It was nachas ruach, it says a smoke, and a nachas ruach, a pleasantness, which brought out a tainuk to Hashem. Brought a tainuk to Hashem, pleasure. Together with that, it is also necheach, means nachas ruach lefonai. Gave the Eibusher pleasure. But then Chassidus says this was one altar, Mizbeach HaChitzin, the external altar. But then there is also an altar, the inside altar, called Mizbeach HaPnimi. The inside altar is solely connected, reserved for potatoes, for spices, bringing the spices. This was a service in the temple. They used 11 different kinds of spices, and they needed to make sure everything is correct, the weight, the count, everything needed to be precise. Dictators. These are dictators. So these are the spices that they brought every day. And we say it in davening, in the prayer, in the morning prayer, we say it by Shachris. So Chassidus explains there's a difference between these two offerings. The offering of sacrifice is an offering, but it does not come to the offering of potatoes, of the spices. He says, what is the difference? The offering of sacrifices is compared, lachmi li'ishai, it is a food, a bread offering, and it is an offering that Hashem considers that, the Almighty considers that bread. When the Almighty considers it bread, so it is similar to when a person eats something. It is connected with the limbs of the body, it is connected with the body itself, with the routine, daily schedule of the person, that he energizes his body and on the energy that the body needs. On the other hand, when we speak about spices, spices is not a food. Spices is something that revives the person if a person, God forbid, passed out. So we give him a smelling salt. We give him another psomim, and that is what awakens the person. Many times you have Yom Kippur that people feel it's a little down, so they have smelling salt, passing around smelling salt that people shouldn't pass out. So while also they have an occasion to make an additional bracha, which they don't make, which they need to add more brachas because it's in Kippur. They don't have the 100 brachas count that they need every day. What is the accomplished through the spices? Spices accomplish that it touches the source, the core of the soul. It touches the core of the soul in the sense that it can awaken the person, not only awaken, can revive the person and renew the life sustenance that is coming from the soul into the body. In other words, when a person passes out, that means that there is a limited source of energy in the person. And when he is being revived, it is actually drawing down and connecting again a new channel, a new source and flow of energy from the soul into the body. So this actually reaches out, especially when the person smells through the nose. So the nose, it reaches out even more yet than what the body benefits. As it's mentioned also in Halacha, that psomim is something. Why do we smell spices, Mitzvah Shabbos? Because the extra neshama, the additional neshama Yeseda is leaving after Shabbos. We receive an additional neshama for every Shabbos. And then the neshama leaves, in order that the original neshama should not feel down about it. So therefore we smell the psomim, which is haneshama nanis memeno. It says psomim, spices, the body doesn't benefit from it. It's the neshama benefits from it. And therefore this is a soul nutrition. The smell is a soul nutrition. On the other hand, when it comes to the offerings, they are considered like bread. It is like the regular routine meals of a person every day. So the Rebbe Rashab, when he wants to explain what is the difference between these two, he explains there's two levels in Tainuk. Two levels in pleasure. There's one level in pleasure that is called Tainuk HaPoshut. It is a Tainuk which is completely removed from being grasped with a physical sense. In a physical sense. In other words, a person, a neshama in the body, cannot sense it because it is something that is higher than being sensed physically. Then there is a Tainuk HaMurkav. A Tainuk HaMurkav is a pleasure that allows itself to be drawn down on the intellectual level, on the emotional level, on the practical level. It is a Tainuk that a person could feel, sense. Sort of a person has a Tainuk pleasure in art. A person has a pleasure in music. A person has a pleasure in eating. A person has all these pleasures. These are all different pleasures that relate to different things in the physical world. And a person feels the pleasure, senses the pleasure, because this pleasure comes from a level that allows itself to be drawn down and grasped in a physical sense. Rebbe Rashab continues and he says that in Tainuk HaPoshut itself, in the Tainuk that is removed from being grasped into in the physical sense, there's also two levels. There's one that at least the person is holding on to something. He says, for example, a person is dancing because he's enjoying something. So he says it has at least some kind of hold on. It is holding on at least to the dancing. It is drawn down, but it's just not. It is drawn down into something. He's doing something, which means he feels the sense. That's why he's feeling the pleasure. That's why he's dancing. But then he says comes a pleasure which is completely not not even in dancing. He can't even express it in dancing. He says he remains like a silent stone without moving. He can't even move any of he can't move any of his limbs, because this level of pleasure reaches in the essence and core of the soul that is completely not in a state of being revealed or drawn down. On the other hand, the Rebbe Rashab says, on the contrary, he is in a way of being removed from everything around him. He is like elevating in a higher level. This is basically the two levels in Tainuk, in pleasure. With this we'll understand the different time periods that Hasidus explains, Kabbalah explains, in Hasidus more in detail. When are the revelations of Tainuk, of pleasure?